Hello everyone and welcome to our Ask the Expert Circle series, co-hosted by myself, Suzanne Murdoch of the Hub Newry and Eve Early of Empowering Change. We're delighted today to welcome Clare Hegarty, sleep and nutritionist coach. Her business is called Clare Hegarty Nutrition. Welcome, Clare.
Thank you very much for having me. So excited to be here today.
Our circle, as you know, is all about connecting people and showcasing expertise. So I'd love you to go ahead and introduce yourself and storytell all about your unique skill set.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you, Suzanne. I am, as Suzanne mentioned, I'm a nutritionist and a sleep coach. And I work with families, I work with women, I work with corporate organizations to basically help them put health and wellness at the core of their lives, whether it be with a mother, a busy corporate mom, or a corporate business, or families. And so really, you know, it's for me, my journey into nutrition was a very personal one. I once had a very busy corporate career, working for large multinationals in Ireland and abroad, and loved it, loved the people and the coaching aspect of what I did. But about 15 years ago, when I got married and we started had our family, my second child was born, and went on to develop a lot of sensory issues around food that would eventually require a lot of additional support. And that's when my journey into nutrition really began, because I went in search of answers. I looked everywhere to try and understand essentially what I could to help and support my child. I took him everywhere. But really, as a mom, it was very, very hard navigating that. And the most well-read parent, and you know, even with some sort of a background in nutrition and, you know, wellness, it is very hard to decipher everything, go through all the information. Some of it's misleading, some of it was very overwhelming, and a lot of differing opinions when it comes to therapists and specialists across the board. So really, I was in a position at that time where I thought, I don't have the answers and no one is giving me the answers. But what I found through so much research that I'd done, there was a lot coming out about the link between nutrition and mental health, as well as physical health, and particularly around children's development. So I did the only thing that I thought was right at the time, which was to pull down the shutter on my corporate career, leave it behind, and spend all of my time focusing on what I could do to help my son and my family. And I went back to college and I studied nutrition. But very soon after graduating and starting to work in the field, I realized that whilst nutrition is extremely important, it is actually only one piece of the jigsaw. And I was working with families and working with women who were telling me that they knew what a good meal looked like, but they were overwhelmed and stressed and exhausted, and they weren't sleeping properly, and life was really just getting in the way. So I went back again and I studied sleep. I've done numerous courses on sleep. It intrigues me, mostly because I have now come to the conclusion, and it's very well researched, and there's more research coming out on it, thankfully. Sleep actually is the foundation of health. So what I do now essentially is I bring together not just my training and qualifications, which are important, but my lived experience of a mom with 3 kids, you know, managing a business, trying to keep everything going at home. I'm also a homeschooler for one of my children. And really, you know, it's just about now what I do is I combine my lived experience with my qualifications, and I work with families and women to help people really live happier and healthier lives. My ethos is about simplicity. Life is difficult enough. I simplify nutrition to help educate people about what they need, so that they can then be empowered to make better choices when it comes, and more informed choices when it comes to their own diet and lifestyle. So sleep and movement and all of those essential pillars of health. And I've been very, very fortunate to work with some great families and wonderful women. And I have to say, in my job, I nearly learn as much from the people I work with than they learn from me. And I realized that, you know, the corporate world, whilst I loved it at the time, it's not something I could ever go back to. So I've decided to dedicate my own life now to helping families, especially our children, live better lives. We have 1 in 10 children in Northern Ireland who have a diagnosed mental health condition. 38,000 children in 2018 got access to CAMS. We do have a rising mental health issue on our hands, and nutrition and lifestyle play a massive, massive part. So all I want is to help more people make very small but simple and profound changes that can really transform their lives. So that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, that's an amazing story. Who would you say, Claire, would be your ideal client to work with?
For me, my ideal client, Suzanne, is me and the mother that I was back then. So I sat for many, many nights researching, Googling and reading to try and find answers. And I struggled with it. I really did, because there are no answers when it comes to here's the perfect diet and lifestyle that you need to follow. So for me, I reach out to those moms now. My ideal client is a mom who was like me, is juggling life, a job, family, now at the moment trying to keep their jobs and keep their businesses running, as well as homeschooling their children, and just trying to provide the best that they can in terms of a family's nutrition and health. The difficulty is there's so much information out there right now that a lot of these women are completely overwhelmed and don't know where to start. So my ideal client is that mom, that woman that I can reach out to and say, listen, I have the answer, because quite simply, I've walked in your shoes. I know what it's like. I've been there. It's not as difficult as you think. And here are proven strategies that I have successfully managed to roll out into my home, that has taken my family from being a family of fussy, picky eaters to children who now explore a wide range of foods, and meal times are not stressful.
And not only have you walked in those shoes, you're still walking in those shoes, so you're still learning constantly. And
absolutely.
New ideas. And
that's the thing about this work, Suzanne, you will never stop learning. Mm-hmm. I never stop reading. If you could see behind me now, I have books stacked halfway up my wall. And you have to, in order to serve the people you work with, you constantly have to be reading and researching and seeing what's coming out next and what is the latest in terms of sleep and nutrition research, and bringing that to people in a way that is easy for them to access, because that's the difficulty. This information is not easily accessed out there.
And not only are the treatments constantly changing and maybe the solutions, but our current situation is constantly changing as well, especially given the situation at the moment. So I guess it's a work in progress on both sides, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is, yeah. And it's particularly challenging at the moment because life has changed drastically for all of us, you know, and bedtimes have shifted, eating habits have changed. I have a great diet, but I have never eaten as much banana bread or homemade buns in my life than I have in these last 12 weeks. And that's, you know, it's very important for me always to be very honest and very real. You know, the work that I do is not about kale and chickpeas. You know, it's not about green juices and, you know, unrealistic expectations of food. It is real, normal stuff. I do have off days. I do have days when I overeat and eat too many, you know, homemade buns, yes. But, you know, in general, things have changed for people, and people are now starting to feel the effects of that, particularly children who are sleeping less. And that is one of the first things that can have a huge impact on mental health. But actually every organ in your body and every cellular process in your body is impacted by sleep. So yes, you know, there are lots of things happening at the moment. And I'm working at the moment with many people around trying to make those small adjustments in this new world that we're living in.
Yeah, and I've heard this from a number of people, you know, don't beat yourself up if you're not doing what you ideally think you should do. It's all about being realistic and being gentle with yourself.
Absolutely.
Taking those small baby steps towards where you think you want to go.
Yeah.
Your goals. You've answered this several times over, I'm sure, but what unique aspects do you think that you bring to this approach of yours?
Well, for me, you know, I do believe that, well, firstly, the areas that I work in, when it comes to family nutrition and when it comes to the corporate work that I do, it's very, very important for me as a person. And it doesn't, you know, it's not the same for everyone, and it doesn't have to be this way. But for me, what is very important to me is working in the areas that I have experience in. Because for me, when you're working particularly in the area of family nutrition, it can be very, very difficult sometimes for mothers to reach out and ask for help. I know that because sometimes many times moms have told me that when they come to see me, whether it's in one of my workshops or, you know, one-to-one work that I do, that they feel embarrassed about what's in their fridge, and they feel embarrassed, or that perhaps I'm going to judge. And, you know, I am able to say to that mother, listen, well, firstly, I could never do my job if I came from a place of judgment. We need to have empathy for people, and we need to have compassion. And I feel in some ways blessed that I have that, just because I have had that experience myself. And I love to be able to sit down across a room, or even now in these days, you know, Zoom, to look someone in the eye and say, I have been there, I have walked in your shoes, and I can't promise you that I have a magic wand and that everything will disappear, but I have the tools and strategies to help you, because I had to find them, and I had to design them, and I had to work them for, well, now 10 years, you know, of this lived experience that I have. So I think that's what makes me different, Suzanne. There's many brilliant nutritionists out there, and brilliant health coaches, and they all offer a great, you know, expertise and experience themselves. But for me, what I feel comfortable with, and I love the fact that I can say to someone, I know what you're going through, because I've been there, and that to me means a lot. I wish that I had somebody that had been able to do that for me. Say, Claire, you're okay. I know what you've been through. So that for me is something that I feel is really important.
Claire, you're a breath of fresh air. I just judgment there is a breath of fresh air. There's so many mums out there, I mean myself included, who might beat themselves up each day, and I think you feel guilty no matter what you do, whether you're at work, whether you're at home, whether you're part-time. If you just feel you can't fit everything in and give everything 100%, and something has to give all the time.
I know. But
it's about being realistic, you know, what is going to work in your life, like you said, and how can you look after everyone as best you can, and getting those hints and tips.
If I could jump in, it was fascinating to me. I attended a session about 2 years ago on sleep, and introducing the idea of sleep hygiene household. Like, first of all, the term sleep hygiene was brand new to me, you know, and would that I had known that when my children were coming up. Everything, when my children were coming up, and they're in their 30s now, but when they were coming up, we treated everything as a discrete problem issue, something that needed to be attacked. Only that, as opposed to this big picture approach. So I would really love to hear how it is you tie the nutrition and the sleep together, and when you're working with families.
Yeah, so, you know, I love that when you talk about the big picture, because when I look at anyone and I look at a questionnaire that I've sent someone, and I sit down with someone for that first consultation, it's never about just the sleep. It's never just about the nutrition. It's about holistically, it's about the person from top to bottom. You know, what are your obstacles? What are your worries? What's your diet like? What's your sleep like? I have never come across anyone who has a fantastic diet but has really poor sleep and is doing well. We need all of these bits together. And for me, it's really educating people around that, Eve, because a lot of people think, oh, I drank 4 pints of water today, and, you know, I didn't have any rubbish, and, you know, I went for a bit of a walk this evening, so that's a good day. but there's so many other things like mindset. You know, where's your head at every morning? One of the programs I do with women is a program called Reset, and it's basically 5 areas. The first one is resetting every morning when you get up out of bed and asking yourself, okay, what do I want for myself for this day? So it's like a positive affirmation to start your day. Then we look at eating. So we look at the food that's going into your body. It's about nourishing your body and your mind. Then we look at sleep. We look at exercise, or as I prefer to call it, movement, because sometimes when I say exercise to people, you can see this glaze, fear coming over their face. And then the last bit is time for you. And so it's a beautiful approach to really looking at all of the areas of your life and understanding that, you know, as women, and, you know, there's lots of wonderful men in our lives, but as women, we do so much. We put so much pressure on ourselves. The amount of women I work with day in, day out, who I have to help and support and coach to break punishing diet cycles, where they get up in the morning and decide how their day is going to go depending on what number shows on the scale for that particular day. You know, the diet culture has a lot to answer for, because so many of us still associate a number with our happiness. So, you know, there are many, many aspects to wellness. Diet, sleep, they're just 2 parts. So really it's about me sitting with someone and saying, you know, tell me about you, every aspect of your life, and then coaching that person to put a plan in place, whether it's a personalized one or for a family or for a business, to basically make sure that you're putting health and wellness at the core of everything you're doing.
So Claire, based on that approach, you've got to know the woman, you've given her the coaching tips. What's then your secret for putting this program in place, but keeping that journey going, keeping that positive journey going for that woman? How does it fit into her daily lifestyle to enable her to carry on using that approach?
So that's a really, really good question. And I'll say this, you know, no person that comes to see me will ever go away with the same plan or approach as the next person. So it's very personalized. And it really comes down to what someone wants for their own life. But whatever we decide on, whatever that plan looks like, it has to be very specific, it has to be very achievable, it has to be very realistic, and it has to fit in with their own lifestyle. So this idea of giving someone a diet sheet and a workout plan for 4 weeks, you know, diets don't work. That kind of a one-size-fits-all approach does not work. And why should it? We are also biochemically diverse. You know, what keeps you awake at night, Suzanne, is different to what keeps me awake. You know, what you like to eat, Eve, will differ from me, and how food affects you will differ from the way I'm affected by food. So it's really about looking at that person and what that person needs, but setting small, achievable targets that become so habitual and so, you know, normal, almost like brushing your teeth every morning, that you don't think about it because it's been embedded so well. And the only way you can do that is by A, wanting it, and B, having the right steps in place around that to make sure that it just becomes something you do every day without thinking about.
Yeah, it's almost making it bulletproof. If you have a pandemic, for example, that comes up and goes whoosh, that you've still got those core values and almost like a mission and that goal. And you've still got those core mantras that you say to yourself each day and keep you on track.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, mindset is key. It's absolutely key as well, you know, and the relationship that we have with ourselves is something that a lot of us need to do work on, because, you know, that to me is what I experience a lot when I work with women, is that, you know, they've put themselves at the bottom of every single priority list that they've ever written. Their name was never on it, or it was at the bottom of it. So it's about realizing that we have to value ourselves and put work into ourselves, especially as parents, you know, because our children are watching us. And I think it's really, and that for me is always a great checker. You know, my daughter at 11 years of age is watching how I eat and how I sleep, and, you know, how I feel about myself. You know, that is a great measure for me, because I want her to basically have a great relationship with herself, feel well, eat well, nourish her body and her mind, and, you know, live life to the full.
And only once you've got those values knuckled down and you understand that, can you then be confident and show your confidence to your child, and they can then open up and share things with you in turn.
That's it. And there's so much out there now in terms of
full story, doesn't it? The full circle.
Mm-hmm.
I also think there's a piece where, you know, and there are people who talk about mindful eating and other people who roll their eyes when you say it. But there's a piece out there where I think that we have taken food for granted to the point where we do not look at our individual responses. What happens when I eat something that's refined carbohydrates? Does it make me sleepy? How do I feel after that cup of coffee at 4 o'clock in the afternoon as opposed to the one I had at 11 o'clock in the morning? I think that we really, in the individual approach, which is what I really like about your individual approach, what we really need to be doing is being able to get quick wins. To know that if I change that thing that I have done habitually for no good reason except that it's a habit,
mm-hmm.
And I know with my kids, it turned out at one point to be changing a brand of peanut butter that didn't have as much sugar in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only bothering one child. But who knew? You know, again, it's that piece where when you get the individual coaching, it's easier to buy into the changes because somebody's checking in and reflecting back the fact that it's working.
Yeah, and it could be really simple things, Eve, couldn't it? Like your aha moment. I was talking to Claire there last week, and we were talking about giving snacks to children, healthy snacks, and I was busy there giving them fruit, thinking I was doing great things, which you are to some extent, but they don't necessarily have the protein. So one was buzzing off the wall with too much sugar from the fruits and couldn't concentrate. And when Claire suggested the protein, and you giving them the protein element, that seemed so obvious, but I hadn't even thought about it.
Yeah, it amazes me, you know, in one sense why that information is not out there, but in another sense, you know, the world is run by 10 food companies, food giants who it's not in their best interest for people like me to be talking to parents about just eating whole foods. One of the things I do, and I find this so interesting, is I help moms, and one of my workshops or one-to-one programs I do, I help parents, I should probably stop saying moms, but you know, I help parents read food labels. So what I do is some clients I'll do a supermarket shop with, and we go around, we look at their typical week's worth of groceries. It's not about taking someone who eats chips every night to, you know, eating kale and chickpeas, as I mentioned before. It's about gradually moving back, but it's also about the education piece. And one example I always give, I probably told you this, Suzanne, is, you know, I look at breakfast cereals, because breakfast cereals are the most popular breakfast for most people in Ireland and the UK, and they're not food. No matter how much I would, you know, be quizzed on this, they're not real food. So one particular brand I took, and it was a beautiful green box with white writing and lovely big tick saying added fiber and no additives, no preservatives, and fortified with vitamins and iron. They were like whole wheat squares. So to a parent, that looks like it's brown, it's whole wheat. I know that whole wheat is good. And off they went and bought the lovely box of cereal. But if you flip the cereal box on its side and look at the ingredients, the first 5 ingredients were sugar. So sugar has 56 different names. And the one mother in particular I was working with at this time was so upset, and said, you know, what are you meant to do with that? You know, there I am trying my absolute best to provide the best for my children. They like cereal for their breakfast. This to me looks like a good cereal, and yet you can show me that it has 5 different types of sugar on the side. If people had that small amount of education, it would make so much difference. It's about really helping people make more informed choices when it comes to their shopping. So when I do the supermarket shop with mums, I go into Tesco's in Newry, where Suzanne and I are from, and we go in and I said to the mums, just all I want you to do for the first 5 minutes is look. Just look around you. We stand at the fruit and veg section, which unfortunately is one double aisle. And say that makes up about 20%, not even, of the supermarket. And then I ask them to look at every other aisle, and all you have from there on down is processed, more processed, and ultra processed foods. So over 50%, and I reckon that number's a lot higher, but the research study came out to say that over 50% of foods, family food shopping done in a supermarket is for ultra processed foods. And how can we expect our children to perform well in school, to sleep well, to have good behaviour, to be able to concentrate and focus on their, and it's particularly with kids who concentration and focus and learning is particularly difficult for. How can we expect those children to perform well when we know that the large percentage of what's going into their little mouths every day is from ultra processed foods? So, you know, I feel very strongly about it. I always say to every parent, every Friday night, without fail, my children get pizza and chips. And I don't think they'll ever change, and I don't want them to, because balance is important. I am not saying that, you know, you can't have your processed food and your chips or your pizza nights or your chicken nugget nights or whatever. It's about balance, and it's about making decisions because you have the right information and the evidence-based information and the facts. But I think that's what people are really dearly missing. And, you know, a lot of children and a lot of adults are suffering as a result, not just with their physical health, but with their mental health as well.
Claire, we were talking, even myself, before you came on there, in terms of it's a very busy life for mums, dads, people at home right now, and if they've got kids, there's an awful lot to juggle. What are your thoughts on almost redoing a timetable to fit all of this in, and being very mindful of what we've talked about and what we have to fit in there to have the balanced, healthy lifestyle, both for ourselves and children? What are your thoughts on almost redoing a daily schedule?
Yeah, well, funny, I did a talk last week for a company, and they specifically asked me to do something on homeschooling happy, healthy kids. So, and it was this exact topic that we discussed, and that's what the presentation was based on. For me, Suzanne, everything comes from having some sort of a plan, and that's across the board, I think. But when it comes to meal planning, for example, that's something that I do a lot of work on, and it doesn't have to be difficult. It's very, I wish I could show you the lovely meal plan that I have. It's an A4, I laminate it. The children get involved with what's been cooked, and you know, everybody has a dish that they can choose every night. We do a quick meal plan up on a Saturday. I shop for it on a Saturday or Sunday, and we know what's ahead, you know, in the coming week. So when it comes to schedules, it's really important. I think it's really important to help beat that overwhelm. If you know at the start of a week, here are my 5 meals, even forget about the weekend. You know, the weekend can be free to you know, to have whatever you want within reason, but you have 5 meals across the 5 days, and you know what your snacks are, and you're getting variety in. You don't have to think about it. The amount of women who will say to me, I come home from work, I'm absolutely exhausted, I cannot even start to think about making a dinner, and that's when convenience meals come into play. That's when these things win out. We all need to be consuming 7 to 10 fruit and vegetables every day. That can be really hard if you've come in from a long day's work, whether it's at your kitchen table or in an office, and you're thinking, how am I going to get that quota up? How am I going to get 7 fruit and veg into, you know, a meal now? So think ahead and plan ahead. I would also say put sleep in there somewhere. Have an idea of, you know, what your sleep schedule is currently, and try and see if you can shave that back a little bit. So if kids are going to bed at erratic times and getting up at irregular times, the one thing, if I could give one sleep tip, and I have loads, and it's nearly a conversation for another day, but when it comes to sleep, regularity is key. So if you do nothing except go to bed at the same time every night and get up at the same time every day, your body will thank you for it. Even if it's not the recommended 8 hours, but if you went to bed every night at 11 and got up every morning at 6 or 12 and 6, whatever it may be, start first with that. And then, you know, with the summer ahead of us, kids are starting to wind down now when it comes to school. We don't have the same structure in place. But again, just having something loosely that you can do with them every day or every other day, I think it's really helpful for kids as well to have that little bit of structure. Kids like that. It gives them confidence. It gives them that sense of security. So plan ahead again when it comes to what you're doing with kids. It takes so much thought out. It takes so much stress out of the equation and overwhelm. And, you know, some people like lists, other people don't. So just make it as I suppose, as real or as much as you can possibly manage, and stick it up on your fridge. That's what works for me in this house.
Another thing I do is I've got a list on my fridge of maybe 20-minute things you can do with the kids. You can slot in if you've got those bits of time. Yeah,
and you know what? It's amazing the creativity that has come out from people over the last number of months. There's loads of different, you know, homeschooling hubs and you know, ideas for play and science experiments and so many different things that our kids have been doing, from, you know, Facebook groups that were set up during lockdown with loads of initiatives and loads of different ideas. And the other thing, which I should mention because it's so important, a big area that I work in is the fussy eating and the picky eating. And so many kids are not even getting close to what they need per day in terms of nutrition through fruit and vegetables. So get kids involved with the baking process. Teach them, you know.
I do love it.
Yeah, and not just buns and banana bread. You know, picking what I have designed a lot of work, a lot of actual physical, you know, downloadable tools that I've designed at home, working with my son over the years. And I say to parents, start with the letter A and pick something and give them a few facts and talk about it and let them, you know, kids perceive everything through their senses. Let them smell things, let them touch things, let them hear the noise of it. That breaks down that barrier of fear that they have when it comes to trying new foods and exploring new tastes. You know, my son went from eating beige food and drinking juice to now, you know, telling me, Mommy, I don't like that juice, I just like water, and eating broccoli and sardines and onions and you name it. So, you know, what's really important for me is to tell, many parents do not believe that their children will ever be anything but a fussy eater. It is really possible. It is possible because I've done it, to get your child from eating 4 foods to 40 foods.
Oh, yeah.
All it takes is time, and all it takes is that.
And getting them involved, Claire, as well. They love nothing more than doing the chopping, putting the things
I
in.
love it.
So I know for some people they might be very fearful of that as parents, giving a child a knife, but it's important. If they're getting involved in the whole process, you're opening their whole world up.
Yeah, well, you can get these great little knives now, you know, that are safe for kids to use. And they're available on Amazon and eBay. So they cut vegetables, but they'll never, you know, cut the child. Yeah. So there's so many options. But yes, get them involved and get them exploring and keep exposing them to foods to get them to like them more.
Claire, that's an amazing story, and thank you ever so much. I'm just aware of time there to wrap up, but where can people find more information on yourself and your courses and your programs?
So you find me online. I'm on Facebook, Clare Hegarty Nutrition, same with Instagram. You can get me on LinkedIn, Clare Hegarty. I have a website that is up and running but is still under construction. But yes, so there's plenty of information there on how to contact me. I offer anyone a 30-minute free complimentary call with me. Something that's very important to me, because you can't really get as much as you would like to sometimes off a website or a Facebook page. So I offer that to everyone. Should anyone want to contact me and find out anything more about what I do.
Fantastic. Okay, and we'll be putting the presentation and podcast version on the circle as well. So if anyone's any more questions, please do get in touch. askthegotopro@gmail.com. And again, thank you very much, Claire.
You're very welcome. It was lovely chatting to you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.